one of the brightest minds in our game and in golf instruction, and I can say I knew him when. It's Chris Como. Finally, Chris, we get together. I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Mark. I know we've been trying to do this for a bit, but it's awesome to be here with you.
Between you and my schedules, it's next to impossible, isn't it? Because I can never get you off one or other thing that venture that you on. Jokes. I want to kick this off with this because you've seen everybody from ranked beginners to Tiger Woods. You've advised Bryson DeChambeau. You have coached just about all and sundry. And right now you're working alongside some of the great players in our game in 2025. As I look at that, I'd love to ask you this, Chris. You know, every golf instructor, you and me, we have our sort of theories and stuff. But you see so many people, you start to see things that great golfers all sort of have in common. In your experience over the last few years, have you noticed anything like that?
Oh, I mean, I find that to be a really difficult question. I mean, the hard part is like you think something and then someone comes along, you're like, oh wow, that's wild. That's
Okay.
interesting move, and they hit it really good. I think a lot of it has to do with things that kind of go with other things.
All right.
So like the cliche terminology, I guess, would be like matchups. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's you get a sense of like this goes with this or that goes with that. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, I tend to look at swings as, through the ball backwards. So
Okay.
what is someone doing through the ball? What is, their hands and wrist? What is the face doing through the ball? I don't want to say rate of closure because I think you can have wildly different rates of closures and still work really well. But I tend to see certain hand paths that I think work better with certain rates of closures.
Mm-hmm.
Certain sort of shaft leans that work differently with different sort of wrist configurations. So I've always been a big fan of like studying swings and like different swings, and oftentimes swings that are very different than what are typically called like good swings, but still work. And I just find there's so much gold in there. And I think I've just more or less tried to develop a sense of like I think this is going to work, or this is the direction I would go. If someone were to be like, this is a hard draw a line in the sand hypothesis of a common denominator amongst all great ball strikers, I'd be really hard pressed to give an honest answer to that. I feel
Well,
like I'd be making it up a little bit.
well, that's why I respect you. I sort of add to what you were saying there was the greats kind of know who they are a little bit, and they sort of know their matchups, and they're not addicted to those, but they're kind of firm about those things. And I want to say
And
this.
I'm gonna say, and they oftentimes don't know it consciously. They may
Yeah.
know it, but like I mean, they have their own blind spots on what they're doing. They may have no idea what they're doing, but in their body, they know it at a very
Yeah.
sort of like, yeah.
Well, it's why I respect you because I'm 55 and I've been around, when handicams were kind of golf instruction, and I've seen everything else. And if I have seen a trend with a number of I'm going to use a term that might offend folks, sort of the internet golf instructors, I sort of see method and I see a hard line on what these people teach. And when I watch you, I see everybody from Bryson to Xander, and I see this beautiful. There's no signature to all of them, and that's what I respect about what you do with some of the games greats.
Yeah, I mean, look, the critique would be like, oh, well, you're not really teaching anything. And I mean, I get it, but I mean, I know the way I kind of look at stuff, and I don't feel like that's true. I definitely feel like I've done my homework, and I have like a teacher starting out, one teaching on the internet. It's like you probably have to give some sort of model. Like there's got to be a descriptive place to start with to help like a student get from point A to point B. And if you're teaching like a beginning golfer, maybe having some sort of framework or system or model, whatever, is like a useful tool. I do think as you get with better players, you got to be careful. It's almost like, training wheels on a bike. It can help you get started, but if you really kind of want to ride and do like tricks and do stuff with like, interesting swings, you got to be able to like shed those training wheels. So I think like a model can be a very useful tool, especially with certain populations of golfers. But I think when you get with better players, especially if you think the model is like truth as opposed to just a communication tool, like this is it, you have to do this. I think that's when teachers have fallen into the trap of getting attached to that model and really saying, hey, you got to do this, get closer to it, whatever, and you can really hurt a person. Like, I think that's when better players have oftentimes like lost their games, because that model may have worked for one person, but for whatever reason not for them. And then the coach is so sort of like vehement about putting that model in, and the player puts all their faith into it, and then they get so down that path that it becomes hard to kind of unravel out of that. So
Very well said. Okay, folks, he's Chris Como. Everyone around the world kind of knows who you are a little bit, but I want to get the backstory a little bit about how you came to where you are, because clearly to me, the real playing emphasis to your lessons and the way you approach golf instruction as well. So give us the background, man. Tell us about Chris Como a little bit.
I just from early on, I knew I wanted to be a really good coach. So I traveled the country, tried to learn from as many different coaches as I could. Worked for Led for a while, worked for Haney for a bit, spent some time with Mac O'Grady, Adam Schreiber, lots of different guys. And so I think just learning from other coaches, I would say would be one big pillar. Ended up working I always try to put myself in environments where I would give like a lot of lessons. I thought that was listen to. I thought that was really important, just to kind of get your hands dirty. Spent 4 years teaching at a little rundown driving range in Dallas, Texas. Kind of built my own book from scratch, which was its own really great experience from a teaching perspective, where the students don't know you from Adam, and they're not coming to you because you're part of an academy. It's just you either get them better or you don't pay your bills that month. So I think that was actually a really important sort of learning experience for me as a coach. And then somehow found my way partnering at a university with a guy named Dr. Young-Hoo Kwan. We started to do research on golfers. That segued me into taking classes with him and completing all of like the master's coursework with him. And, we did a lot of research on just 3D motion stuff, collecting data and looking at things through 3D motion and force plates. And then so that was another sort of, I guess, vertical would be becoming friendly and going down the rabbit hole of biomechanics with like Young-Hoo Kwan, Sasha McKenzie, Phil Cheatham, Dr. Rob Neal, a lot of those guys, right? So and then, started, well, even before that, I was working with like a lot of great juniors and some Corn Ferry, I guess at the time was web.com guys, and just started to teach some guys on the PGA Tour. And that became its own thing. And again, that's its own learning experience. I think, when you're working with better players, you're learning as much from them as they are from you. So if I were to say the big kind of pillars from my coaching experience would be learning from other coaches, learning from the scientists, learning from really great players. I've had the good fortune to be around, Tiger Woods, right? The best of all time. I mean, I can't explain how, incredible an experience and invaluable an experience that was. And then just rolling up your sleeves and putting in a lot of time teaching. I think that you can't circumvent kind of the sort of the reps you got to put into it. So
the inquiring mind to me is something that's indicative of, all the greats that I've been around. And this is not just golf instruction, this is everything. And I mean, even now I watch you as you do these ventures on Golf Pass and stuff, where now you're hooking up not just with instructors or players, now you're hooking up with athletes from other sporting codes and finding commonalities between a baseball swing and a golf swing, or a tennis player, and that to me is where the nitty gritty is, because everyone kind of has their own DNA. That the great instructor, Chris Como, is able to find that, work with that sort of thing, and help them to improve their golf game a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I love learning from coaches in other disciplines. I mean, I think also when you're a golf coach, it's obviously like my sort of air quotes lane of expertise would be the swing side of it, but it's splinters off into other things, and learning from people in other sports, or I've been really into like the whole kind of performance, also like the nutrition side of things lately, the biohacking world or whatever. So like, I mean, these are not big things, but if you can get your players to eat a little healthier, or drink cleaner water, whatever it is. So I think inherently I'm a pretty curious person. So to me, it's fun when I feel like I'm still in that process of learning. And I think you kind of look wherever that is. And even if you only take that that one sort of nugget of gold, you feel like you've gained something.
Yeah, certainly holistic. You've jogged my mind here a little bit, Chris, and I want to go there for just a minute. The nutrition and the hydration and those sorts of things, it's something that a lot of people sort of think is hocus pocus a little bit. And then people go like, all right, I'm all in. And then they'll try and drink more water or, stay hydrated or whatever the case might be. And then they're like, I'm not getting better. But they don't realize this is just an element, one of the elements of the complete golfer's approach to maximizing their performance, right?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's hocus pocus or not, like at the end of the day, it's a low risk scenario. Like I don't think people are going to get worse or unhealthier from drinking more water, for example. So I try to pick things that are kind of like on that risk profile or low risk to introduce. And it's like worst case scenario, nothing happens. But I also think sometimes these effects can be like just way down the road, right? So if you have a golfer who has better habits, let's say a professional golfer, because that's kind of right now, at least, a sort of a focus of my career. Um, let's say they work out better, or they eat better, or they drink more water. I mean, if you can add 5 years, a couple years to their career, what is that in terms of dollars return for them? So,
Yeah.
at that level, it's like it's a true investment on how much money they're going to, golf is such a skill level that if you can maintain once you develop that skill, that's like the big threshold you're trying to cross. And if you can maintain your body to a pretty decent performance, I mean, you don't have to be the fastest guy out there, but if you can keep your speed, you can keep healthy and prevent injury, a golfer's career could be really long. And if you can extend it for whatever extra years, that's a lot of money for them. So
Yeah, I want to say at the amateur level too, because a lot of folks watching this are club golfers weekend warriors who want to improve, and I would say most of us are chronically dehydrated. And so there's very little chance your body's going to perform as well as what it could.
for sure. I mean, like I just say the professional just because that's sort of like right now, right in front of me. But like absolutely. I mean, it's at the end of the day, for most of us, is a sport we're just trying to enjoy. So how do you extend that window where you can really enjoy it a little bit longer? I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just trying to make efforts to be a little healthier and just extend that window where you feel good and move good for a bit longer. Whether it's hocus pocus or not, like I mean, I think a lot of stuff there might be some stuff that is, but again, if it's low enough risk, then it's like what do you
Yeah.
what's the downside?
Well, this is coming from me, who's like, I'm seriously into like I'm 55 now, trying to maximize health. And so I'm in fact got my garlic pill right in front of me on my desk.
Yeah.
But that's for something else. Okay, let's get into the golf swing some, and then we'll talk about some of the greats that you've been around and things that you might have seen out of them. Um, Again, I love your approach because, like, I watch you with a Xander Shoffley, and I watch in a small sort of a way, he stayed Xander, but you've helped him to get the club more in position at the top to help him transition down and hit a ball pattern that's a little different. But it's like been a masterclass in not overhauling too hard. And I make that observation to say to folks, oftentimes it's like they try and dive too hard into change, if you know where I'm going, where you've kind of guided him along, and all of a sudden a year later you're like, well, it does kind of look different if I compare old and new.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it
Smiling.
was
You're proud of that.
no, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, he's amazing to work with. Yeah, it was just a what our starting point was and some of the shots he was hitting.
Hmm.
Um, we just studied a bunch of swings throughout his career, and it's there. This is a bit of like I guess the instinct part of it. I just really felt like getting the club a little more across the line for him would transition things in a way that would make his delivery a little bit different and more like times when he's driven at his best. And we went with it incrementally, and that's sort of obviously hit like a nice sweet spot.
Yeah.
So
Hey, this is a nice kicking off point for the golfers to learn. Where let's advise the learner now, who's aspirant and wants to get better, and they go and see the professional, and they don't like the way their swing looks on camera at all because everyone has a phone with a camera now. Where like what I was saying about Xander's was sort of idiosyncratic in a way, and he still is Xander after your work with him. Advise the learner that it's more about how you project the ball consistently than what your swing looks like, please.
I mean, absolutely, obviously, right? Like, I mean, like the ball flight, everything is directed. You work it backwards from trying to make the ball flight do, what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something to be said for what is not just like what does your best shot look like, but what is your distribution, your overall distribution of shots look like.
Yeah.
And I do think there's, that there's again this sort of risk profile where if someone's a higher handicapper, kind of by definition, their distribution is not good. And they may hit some really nice shots here and there, but they also hit some squirrely shots. So it's not about, what does your swing look like? But having said that, there's certain things you really don't see good players do. Like, there's certain kind of like the way the shaft works, throughout the downswing and some certain wrist conditions and scooping the ball through impact. Like you don't see any guys on tour like have to have the shaft leaning backwards in impact. So, there are certain things where it does matter kind of what it looks like more or less. It's saying like, hey, look, there's no one on tour that looks like this. So let's move in that direction. Again, it's like what is a person willing to what are their goals? So if someone's a 15 handicap and wants to be a 5, it's a big jump. So you're going to have to be, you will have to be somewhat invasive to make that jump.
Yeah.
And I think, for certain people, it is embracing, hey, look, I do need to make this look different. Now, whatever that different is, like that's going to be defined by you and the coach. And, you create your own sort of model for yourself. And maybe that gets changed over time as you get more information about yourself and how you're going to kind of react to things. But I do think with certain people, if they're trying to make big jumps in their skill level, they have to embrace that they're going to have to make significant changes. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Someone like Xander, he's trying to get, whatever, a quarter of a shot, like it's going to make a big deal, right? So you can be much more subtle. Plus, the downside of the risk of getting worse is huge. So you got to be a lot more careful and more sort of, just not invasive with the whole thing.
Yeah, yes, true. I guess where I'm sort of wanting to go here is in all the learners I've encountered over my time in instruction, we have sort of an unrealistic expectation. And you're like, okay, this I'm going to take this lesson and I got this overnight kind of deal, which in my experience is the furthest thing from. And I'm wanting Chris Como to advise folks on that too, to say, look, there's a process to doing what you're doing. And whereas the change may be really invasive, it's incremental adjustments and you're not going to change this overnight.
Yeah, no matter how you slice it, it's not going to happen overnight. I've never seen someone make a significant motor pattern change overnight. So, I mean, that's where I think if someone's trying to get like a one lesson type of thing, they got to know that it's just, I mean, it's going to be very band-aid, and actually the probability of it actually helping, is a little bit of a crapshoot. Like a good teacher can kind of, find like maybe a little tweak here or there that might make it a little bit better, but you're not going to make a big jump in skill level. If you want to make a big jump in skill level, you got to be willing to kind of invest a window of time and really work with a coach in depth and be consistent with that.
Let's talk about the challenge of making that adjustment and then still playing halfway decent through it all, because that's what you're doing with a number of the elite players. They're playing week in, week out with a week off once in a while, and they still want to be competitive despite the changes being made. There's a certain mindset to that. There's an approach to that, and I'd love your take, please.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to your point of being incremental with it. I usually say, okay, let's try a little bit of this and then do things early in the week and then try to get people to phase out of it as the week goes on. Also, depending on what the change is, oftentimes there's certain shots that might be kind of blind spotted for them that I think is helpful for them to sort of take on. And because if once you're on the course, if that shows up. So like say someone's trying to get shallower, just I'm making something up for whatever reason on the downswing. So now all of a sudden if they get a ball in a divot, it's like they're probably going to come steep on it, right? So you got to kind of get ahead of those situations a little bit and take them on. And I think that's where you oftentimes get the best transfer to the golf course. Yeah. So I do think it's a bit of like the timing of things, really knowing, being able to tell a person, be like, okay, that's good for now. And then we'll find different windows throughout the year to maybe bite off more or whatever it is. I mean, that is the luxury of, again, working with better players who are committed to it. It's like you usually have a pretty big time window. I mean, obviously you can get fired at any point, but like in theory, you have like a pretty big time window to work with people. So you're able to kind of like pace it out, find windows in the season to maybe be a little bit more aggressive with things. But again, I think the big part of taking to the course is you know, kind of getting ahead of it and knowing where their potential blind spots might be, and then really making efforts to take those on. Whether it's, hey, like a wind off the left to a particular pin, type of thing. It's just, figuring out those spots and then actually hitting those shots, filming them, actually somewhat being technical, like in a practice environment, to kind of understand what that they're, you have a prediction of what their tendencies would be, but then actually see that in reality, and then figure out, strategies for them to maybe implement on the course when they have a situation like that arise.
I love it. Okay, I know there's a time crunch here, but I got to hit you with a couple real fast. To the scoring of it all, the one thing, and I'm staying with Xander here, through the adjustments over the couple seasons, I think it is, the short game was still immaculate. Talk to folks about, keeping scoring alive with scoring shots while you're working on your swing.
I mean, that's the other thing. You got to coach people to. It's so easy to go down the rabbit hole and work on swing stuff. So you got to make sure that they're allocating their time like appropriately. And also, I think not getting, when I say technical, getting into that sort of, right side of their brain where they're just like very, or I guess left side, whatever it is, like the analytical side of their brain. I've heard it debated, but like, so the analytical side of the brain, where you're like trying to, like be very conscious of what you're doing, but also have windows where you're playing games and just trying to hit shots and be creative. So it's that dance of not trying to take people out of, their ability to kind of like feel, because they're obviously great golfers. Yeah.
It's why you're a master at what you do. Two golfers I want to identify here real fast. Everyone watching this, listening to this, wants to know about them. First off, you are on hand for the Bryson DeChambeau charge towards more swing speed, more distance and stuff. And he was hitting balls in your house in Dallas there into a net at one stage, and you guys were documenting it. Talk about that journey some a little bit, what folks can learn, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, with him again, it was a situation where it's like, let's create a lot of speed. But I'd been working with him since 2018 or so. So I had kind of known his baseline pattern pretty well, and he had a particular release pattern that he was able to control the ball really well through with. So that would be at least my estimation of what really made his swing work at a high level. And it was like, how do we get more speed but not mess that up?
Yes.
So if you're a better player, I think the idea is, really try to identify what allows you to control the ball well, which I typically don't think it's things like, does your left foot stay planted or not? Is your backswing longer or not? I think those are not really the predictors of your ability to control the ball well. So, my opinion, and with Bryson, that's what we went with. It was like, okay, this is the no-go zone. We can't change the way you create lag late in the downswing or the way you square up the face. Yeah. But the other things are sort of like, a blank canvas with, and, obviously his body motion changed quite a bit. His arm motion changed quite a bit. So, and then he just really amplified his intensity to hitting a golf ball doing speed training. And that's where like things like a stack system is a great sort of, training aid to help with stuff. So I would encourage better golfers to, I call it clean speed, to kind of like understand what makes them control the ball better, but then, keep that intact, but try to create speed around that. And then for higher handicappers, look, again, it goes back to the risk profile. I don't think you got a lot to risk. So just get more speed and, use a training program like Stack or whatever else that's out there.
Great. Yeah. And just, 1 or 2 or 3 miles an hour is a big adjustment for most golfers. Yes.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
When it comes to like, I'm going to gain 15 miles an hour with a club head speed.
Yeah. The handful is going to make your game feel a lot different.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Bryson did tell me he gave himself a concussion with some of those speed sessions. Okay. Last one, Chris. Tiger Woods, generational, and he's seen them, everybody, and then he works with you, and then he picks you out of all of it. I'd love a take on Tiger. What folks can have obviously all seen him play, just from maybe the work ethic, because I know the guy was diligent as all get out.
He was. I mean, even in a window where he was like hurt, I mean, he would just do everything he could to fight through it. I mean, it was one of the more remarkable things I've ever seen just from a
Mm.
human level. Where I mean, I know the type of pain he was in and how injured he was and how kind of difficult the whole back situation was for him, and he just kept fighting. I mean, like 99.9% of all the people in the world would probably just be like, look, I'm good. I've won 14 majors, made X amount of dollars. I'm good. And he just kind of kept at it. And then, to win the Masters in 2019, that was just one of the more special moments in sports, I think. So yeah, it was remarkable to be around him and just that no quit kind of mindset. His work ethic was incredible. He fought through a lot of pain and kept at it. One of the things I thought was really interesting, the way he would practice, especially when it was away from a tournament, would be he would take like a whole afternoon and just do short game, or take a whole afternoon and just putt. So a lot of people kind of subscribe to, I'm going to do 30 minutes chipping, 30 minutes putting, 30 minutes hitting balls, whatever it is, and they break up an X amount of hour window, kind of with all the different facets of the game. He would do that when it came to like tournament prep, but if he had a window off, he would spend a huge chunk with one part of the game. And it was almost like he was experimenting and learning, and having that big window gave him that ability to go like deep into a subject, right? Like hitting short game shots or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting that he was like still at that time in his career, still in the sense learning things. That was an interesting sort of observation.
Yeah, I want to mind that because I don't think people realize, because when you see Tiger online, everyone's watching the golf swing, right? And the evolution of the swing. But people don't realize the creativity and the number of shots he has around the greens is insane. And he's
Yeah.
working on that all of the time.
Yeah. But even putting, right? Or he would just spend a whole day putting, or he would spend a whole day hitting. But it wasn't so equally partitioned up like one individual day. It was more like, I'm going to do a day of this, I'm going to do a day of that, I'm going to do a day of that. Come tournament, it'd be hitting all the pieces a little bit. But on off weeks, it was more like those deep dive type of things.
Right. It's the question to let you go. It's a parting shot. I have mine. I don't know if you do. I'm kind of weird that way. I have lists.
Wait, say again?
I say I have mine. I'm weird in that I keep lists of things. Okay,
Oh,
and I have a list of favorite golf swings, and I have a list of underrated flushes on the PGA Tour and such.
okay.
You've seen them all. You've researched them all. You've gotten into the biomechanics of them all. As far as it goes for Chris Como, I'll give you three. Three of your favorite golf swings, please.
Of all time?
Yes, all time.
Oh, geez. I mean, I'm a huge Trevino. I mean, these are the standard ones. I'm a huge Trevino fan. I'm a huge Hogan fan. I'm a huge Knudsen fan. Sam Snead, Nicholas. I think Jim Furyk is a really interesting one because he absolutely flushed it.
Yeah.
Scotty. There's something wild about Scotty. That's so fun to look at because like the results, they speak for themselves. And then, obviously Tiger in 2000. So, is there anybody who's, I don't know.
But you know what I love, and I'm going to spur your mind here a little bit. All of those folks you list, if we had to put all those golf swings together on like a lineup, they're all very different. And you're looking at folks that were great ball strikers and sort of outliers in their own way, and you're delving into what made them good at what they do.
Well, if someone comes along and hits it really well, like especially if they're a little idiosyncratic, that's the swing I'll usually study the most. Where it's like, okay, why does this work? That's interesting. Like, I mean, this is many years ago, but like Jim Furyk was a huge, like I would just like watch Jim Furyk swings constantly just because he hit it so good.
Mm-hmm.
It was very different looking, right? At that time, it was like everything was about like keep the club on plane, have the face look
Yeah.
like this, like all these sort of some kind of like symmetrical aesthetic kind of things. Yet plenty of guys on tour had really pretty looking swings and didn't hit it nearly as good as Jim. So, I that's definitely something I've always found to be like really important for myself to do.
Sensational, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you getting together with us and sharing some of your insights.
Yeah, thank you.
For the folks who don't know where you are for some reason, please share like a website, social media where they can go and find more.
You can go on my Instagram, Chris Como Golf, and
Mm.
then I have an academy in Dallas. Got an awesome team of coaches out there. So yeah, I would say.
And
It's at the Nelson Golf Course in Dallas, where it used to be the old TPC Los Colinas.
And you bring in your handsome mug and all this insight to television as well. Where would they go and find the shows, please?
Golf Pass and Peacock. There's the Swing Expedition, where I went and watched a bunch of different teachers, spent time with different teachers. And then the one that we're doing right now is Golf Versus, which they do another sport. So
you're doing yeoman's work.
Yeah.
And what I love about you, I came up in the age of golf instructors where we were all on the range and everyone was kind of whispering to each other and no one was talking. And then I watch you and you talking with everybody all of the time and sharing what you know. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's part of the fun. Thank you. Yeah.
Take care, man.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.